I feel like because we've brought it up multiple times now, this podcast is gonna start to become a weird comment on mortality. It's been brought up a couple of times.
I figured it would be.
Alright, folks, Star Wars every week until we fucking die. Here we go. Here's another round of fucking pod racing. Alright.
Hey, listen. Fuck.
Hello and welcome to Star Wars Every Week Forever, where we are exactly at the halfway point of our first rotation. This week, of course, it is Empire Strikes Back. How was our watches?
Good. The Senpai Strikes Back is always a good one.
Thank you. I'm glad you took that. I was hoping you would use that. Chris, how was your watch?
Yeah, I mean it was Empire. It's it's thought of as the best for a reason, and it's a reliable watch, if nothing else.
Josh?
I had a pretty damn good watch. This is the first watch I'd consider, and I didn't have a bad time with Revenge of the Sith, and I didn't have a bad time with A New Hope, but for some reason, this is the first watch of this entire rotation that I actually felt like I was having fun doing it. So that's a pretty marked improvement.
Yay, we don't want to kill ourselves watching.
No, yeah.
The bar has been set pretty low.
Well,
see, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm so fed up with Star Wars. I enjoyed this far less than I thought I was going to.
Oh, really? Expand upon that.
I mean, it's fine. I didn't have a bad time watching it, but it's just. I think after last week, the gravity of this set in is the problem.
Oh my god, after the opening episode, the gravity set in for me.
We keep saying the gravity of it keeps setting in, but it really hasn't, because it's been coming in waves. We've been slowly realizing and then getting better, and then slowly realizing and then getting better. It hasn't just been a consistent...
Where's the getting better?
Well,
watching the movies.
Yeah,
Some of the movies.
I've heard you all say multiple times it's sinking in, but because you have said later on it's sinking in, it tells me that it never actually set in. It sinks in moments. It comes and goes in waves, I will try to say.
My moment was this morning as I'm drinking my coffee and settling in to enjoy my day off from work. My wife's getting ready to leave for work, and she's walking outdoors like, "Oh, don't forget you have to watch Star Wars today." And she walks out and it's like, "No." Oh, God, that's right.
See, for me, the week goes, usually about Wednesday, I'm like, I gotta remember to watch Star Wars tonight. And then I get home and I don't watch Star Wars because my brain don't work. And then Thursday, I'm like, all right, I go out visit my grandmom every Thursday. So I went out visit my grandmom. I'm like, all right, when I get home, I'll watch Star Wars. And I get home and I go to sleep. And then Friday comes and I'm just like, shit. So I get home from work and I watch Star Wars. And then everyone nags at me about how I'm watching day of.
I mean, to be fair, you watch not only day of, but usually finish about 10 minutes before we start recording.
All right, listen, I finished like negative 2 minutes before we started recording tonight. So I feel like that's a marked improvement.
I don't think you and I have the same definition of improvement.
No, it's an improvement. Trust me, I'm a doctor.
Oh, there's something I noticed in this watch that just gets more disturbing the more you think about it, and I'm surprised I noticed it in this watch because it's more prevalent in Return of the Jedi. And it's that droids have pain receptors.
Yeah.
There's a scene in this where 3PO is in agony as R2 finishes putting back on his leg or something akin to that towards the end of the movie. And the first thought I had was, I'm not going to write this down because I know there's like literal droid torture in Return of the Jedi. But the more I thought about the fact that the entire prequels are based off of a literal war where droids were thrown at people, the more I had to mention it. Because now I am concerned for both sides of...
Okay, hear me out. What if the battle droids didn't have pain receptors?
That's a big what if.
Not really. They were all about efficiency and like a cheap army, so I think they'd cut whatever corners they could.
I guess, but like, I don't know. Why
Also,
would
I want to know who the person in the Star Wars universe was that, as they're building droids, went, you know what I want? I want these droids to be able to experience pain, because fuck these droids. Like,
right?
Well, no, but like, okay, so
it's important to note here. C-3PO was built by Anakin, so a child put pain.
Okay, but like, so humans feel pain in order to alert us when we are interacting with something dangerous.
It
What?
just sunk that because of the way Phantom Menace was built, a 10-year-old decided to create a literal torture for C-3PO.
I'm trying to work through this, Josh, and you're not helping.
now I'm just thinking of like, how far are we, humanity, away from, instead of like your Roomba texting you to be like, I've gotten stuck on a cliff, from being like, I'm in so much pain, oh God, make it stop.
So hear
You're
me
just
out.
at work and your Roomba is texting you like, I'm in agony. Like, oh Jesus.
But hear me out. Biologically, pain serves the function of alerting us when we're in immediate danger. Would it not stand to reason we would want droids to have that same understanding of, oh, I'm somewhere I shouldn't be, and this thing is causing me this thing could legitimately hurt me. I should probably not interact with it.
Reason and the humane treatment of what would probably be considered living creatures are two very different things.
But if living creatures didn't feel pain,
yeah, but
how
we
terrible would
created
that
them. Why wouldn't we find another way to do it? Why would we impose our pain upon our creations other than to be terrible people?
I was gonna say, because humans are awful, Josh.
That's the issue.
We're getting into like Isaac Asimov territory. That's we've moved away from Star Wars.
I'm sure I will have another rant in regards to this ready next week when we watch Jedi.
On a similar note, and this is a note for all the movies, fucking all of these movies just make me feel bad for C-3PO, because it's just, this movie especially, C-3PO is just like a fucking punching bag.
Yeah, I actually had a self-realization while I was watching this movie. There's a popular trope theory that we really hate characters that are a lot like us and don't want to admit it. And I think that's why I've hated 3PO for so very, very long. I think I'm that nervous Nelly and it upsets me. But also I'm not being tortured.
Yes, you are. You're on this podcast.
That's fair. That's entirely fair.
Welcome to the hell you created yourself, Josh.
Yeah. I have a lot of actual good notes on this movie, which is a rarity. This is also the first time I've watched Empire through this entire project. I did not get this far in the pre-podcast watches. So this was probably my most well-rounded notes. Chewbacca is fucking great in this. Not like just, he's more emotionally on point in this and more played straight in this than, for the most part, than anywhere else in, like, these three movies, and I find it works really well. There's also, like, I don't know. This is a thing that happens in A New Hope as well, and I actually made a note of it on my A New Hope one, but it never came up because we got very distracted.
Us? Distracted? No.
I genuinely can't tell anymore if the original trilogy has bad dialogue or not. It seems to me, when I look at the words and the subtitles on the screen, that there is some really fucking bad dialogue in this movie, but because the actors are not so overly directed, and because there's chemistry between them, it's harder to notice. And I have been struggling through this OT watch through to tell if it's just good dialogue or bad dialogue that's being really well hidden.
The subtitles, however, I've noticed with this, and it's a weird thing, has nothing to do with Star Wars. I use subtitles for everything.
I do too.
The subtitles are very well done on Disney Plus.
Yes.
A lot of subtitles and stuff are like out of sync and like
Sponsored.
but the quality of the subtitles on Disney Plus is
Bring
fantastic.
me money, mouse.
I always said I'd love the mouse if he paid me.
That
No,
mouse
it's a
tried to
bad
fucking
idea.
kill me. I had no love for that mouse.
No, yeah, I did actually. I think I mentioned this to Ben the day that he got Disney Plus, and I started using it as well. Wink. The subtitle options on Disney Plus are some of the most inclusive I've seen on any streaming format, and that's a good thing. But like once again, it totally shows to me that the dialogue in this movie might actually be really bad, and we just happen to have really good actors that are not over direct handling it.
I've heard a lot of people make the argument that the dialogue is written just as bad, but like you said, I don't know if that's something I've ever noticed, because one, obviously, these three films are my favorite three Star Wars films, so I feel I'm a little biased. By a little, I mean extremely. And two, like you said, the way the actors interact on set just feels so natural that it makes it very difficult to tell.
Next week we'll talk about how I will 100% gut the sacred cow that is Return of the Jedi. That's really harsh, but I don't care. I don't feel that strong.
Return's the sacred cow.
I was about to say, the sacred cow is Empire, if anything.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But that said, even in Return of the Jedi, it's hard to tell if the dialogue is bad or not because the actors are so good. But I'm starting to think that George, just undirected with no help, is fucking awful at both directing and writing dialogue as a rule.
I'm gonna pretty comfortably say, after watching the prequels again and watching A New Hope last week and Empire this week, the dialogue is so much better in the original trilogy than it is in the prequels.
That's what I'm saying.
A lot. Like, how did the dialogue get worse in the newer movies?
I have to assume it's because he was directly in charge, whereas these three movies he had co-directors. In fact, he wasn't the director of this movie.
He wasn't the director, yeah.
That's true. I don't know.
I think if you leave George to his own devices, it gets worse.
Fucking George, man.
I will say this movie would be a perfect 10 if it had a pod race in it.
Oh my god.
One day, I haven't seen you in quite a while because of quarantine. Ben and I live close to each other. Chris no longer lives close to us. I so badly just want to smack you upside the head for every pod race mention in all the rest of these movies.
Josh is going to keep a tally of every time I mention a pod race, and I'm going to get
4.
A swift kick to the nuts for each one.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that to you. It's been 4 outside of the Phantom Menace.
Outside the Phantom Menace. We're being generous today.
I'm curious at this point if we're going to get through an entire fucking episode of this podcast at any point without Ben mentioning pod racing.
I don't know. We'll find out.
It might.
Tune in next week to see if Ben brings up fucking pod racing again.
I think the second rotation, I'm going to make a challenge that he's not allowed to talk about pod racing the entire rotation.
I'm going to lose that challenge.
Fuck are we going to talk about for Phantom Menace?
Phantom Menace is going to just be once every fucking 9 weeks we just yell at Ben for talking about it because he has a legitimate excuse to. But anyway, Empire Strikes Back.
There's a lot I really like in this movie still, man. Maybe it's just because it's the first time I watched it this year.
This movie I still hold the fondest memory for. Because I think I said this in our intro episode. I have a distinct memory of one time my dad brought me into work, and I've seen Star Wars so many times before this point, but this is my earliest memory. And I remember we have a boardroom, and nothing was going on that day, so I was sitting there, and all the lights were off, and he had the projector going, and I just remember the Battle of Hoth, and I just love all of those claustrophobic shots of inside the snowspeeders and everything. This
movie gets kind of hardcore for a little bit there, because I don't think any other Star Wars movie would have had the main protagonist ride around with a dead body in the back of his ship for as long as this movie did. And it's not like it's really out of shot. You can see the body shaking with every movement. It's a lot.
Doesn't matter, we already lost the one true hero of the rebellion.
You. I will say, though, the Tauntaun intestines are still some of the worst practical effects I've ever seen in my life.
But they look so much better in the fabulous high definition of Disney Plus.
Don't do this.
I'll even grant the Tauntaun freaking claymation looks better than the balloon intestines.
It literally looks like a stuffed animal. There's a lot I want to talk about on Dagobah. There's a lot I want to talk about on Dagobah.
It takes a while to get there. It's kind of far.
Ben.
Since when do we go in order?
He was making a distance joke.
Chris is trying to reel me back in.
I am. I was trying to let that one go.
So I want to talk about Luke being a dick for a second, because it's so rare that I get to talk about Luke being a dick.
I get to talk about Yoda being a dick.
He's not an overt dick, but this is almost accidental. So when they show up on Dagobah, they obviously have the crash landing. When the crash landing happens and R2 ends up on the outside in the water, Luke scolds him for not going in the right direction while he's going in the right direction. If you go back and watch the scene, R2 is heading in the same exact direction that Luke was telling him to go into.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
And when he finally gets him out of the water, he looks incredibly annoyed because R2, a robot with some empty interior parts, has to expel mud out of his servos. He looks fucking disgusted. And it's the most dickish I think Luke is the entire trilogy. I don't know where it came from, but he comes across as such a dick there.
I think I'm choosing to believe, I should say, that Luke's just generally frustrated with the situation.
Oh, yeah.
And R2's just kind of his emotional punching bag right now, and that doesn't make it any better. But
exactly.
That's my rationale. Because Luke tends to be a lighthearted, happy-go-lucky kind of oh, yeah, whatever. My fucking parents died. I don't care. Let's go on a fucking space adventure. And R2 just throws up some mud, and he's fucking seriously, dude.
I'm 100% not implying that he's Cocaine Space Uncle by any stretch of the imagination.
He could be worse. He could be Qui-Gon.
I'll also mention, in Yoda's hut, the volume of the Force theme that plays throughout that entire scene is fucking fantastic sound design. It turns up and down based solely on the mindset that Luke is in throughout the scene, and it just kind of, as his mind wanders, it gets louder, and as Yoda snaps him back to reality, it gets quieter, and as he sort of focuses in on Yoda, it gets louder again. It's just really, really well done. I never realized quite how well it's done until this watch through.
Yeah, since we've just
Since we're here
along the Dagobah, I'm gonna bring. I had like very few notes for this movie, but one of them was to bring back a callback from last episode.
So, there's a moment where Luke hits his head going into Yoda's hut.
Oh no.
We talked about in the last episode the fucking stormtrooper and how they couldn't afford to reshoot that stormtrooper hitting his head. This scene, Mark Hamill was made to do that 16 times.
I'm sorry, has anyone checked Mark Hamill for post-concussion syndrome?
Oh no, I'm sorry. That we lost that cut. Could you just run it one more time?
Someone was playing a trick on this
Because
this poor motherfucker.
like, I shit you not, I saw that fucking scene and I was like, hold on. So I looked up fucking trivia for this movie. They wanted to get it just right, but they liked the head hit, so they made him fucking do it 16 times.
George was just really pissed off at Mark Hamill for whatever reason that day.
Is that the actual reason why he was in such a bad place when he did The Last Jedi? Was it just like, was his brain responding badly to being back near small Jedi huts because he gave himself multiple concussions because George asked him to? Is that what happened?
That would happen.
I also discovered in that trivia that in an early outtake, when Vader is entering the base on Hoth, he tripped over a cable and fell face first onto the floor. And I really want that outtake.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Oh my god, I want to dig for that now. It probably doesn't exist anymore, but I want it.
There's a scary small amount of special features on the original trilogies.
The exact quote was, Mark Hamill had to bang his head 16 times on the ceiling of Yoda's hut before director Irvin Kershner was satisfied.
Oh, Kershner did it. I see. Fuck me.
I choose to believe that Mark just got fed up by number 16, and he was like, all right, let's run it again. Mark's just like, no. No.
We're risking getting a little ahead on this one, but The Last Jedi puts a really interesting context on the cave scene.
I will say, I remember Josh and I went to see The Last Jedi together, and when Yoda shows up and does his thing, I looked at Josh and I go, I'm so happy. We got Empire Yoda.
Yeah, I felt the
it
same
is
way.
total no fucks given Yoda. I'm gonna be a dick to Luke because I fucking feel like it because I'm an old fuck, and I love it. That is, I'm not a fan of that movie, but Yoda was. I love Yoda.
I love Dick Yoda. I really do. He's so much more interesting, even if he's still a cult leader, if he's just kind of fucking with you a little bit to try to get you to learn his shitty lessons.
Asshole Yoda is just my absolute favorite character in any Star Wars, and I will fight anyone on that.
This is the first time I didn't do a marathon before The Rise of Skywalker because my life was busy. But I think this is the first time I watched Empire with The Last Jedi in mind. I don't know if I like or dislike the fact that him fighting Vader in there and then seeing his face has a different context now that The Last Jedi exists.
That's the continuity now?
Yeah. It hit different is all I'm going to say, because that's all I really have to say yet. I haven't really experienced it enough to have a strong opinion on it, but it's hit.
No, let's unpack this a little bit. So, like, I know in the old continuity there was some, like, Luke kind of... We had fucking... What was the comic series that everyone hates when Palpatine came back? And Luke
Well, it
fell?
wasn't just a comic series. The comic series was based off
yeah.
novelization.
Okay, but it was like Luke fell to the dark side because the Emperor turned him to the dark side like, post-Empire. Like, that was the illusion that, like, oh, if Luke's not careful, he's gonna fall. That scene kind of translates different, like you said, it hits different. But I feel because Luke's still involved in facilitating the fall of the Republic and the rise of another dark side group.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, but I think the difference is in the EU, in Dark Empire.
Dark Empire. Right?
In Dark Empire, he's kind of trying to play both sides, so it's more a moral gray area. And even when Mara dies way later in the really terrible Legacy novels, the closest thing he does to the dark side in that is kill someone in a duel. Whereas in this context, I'm not even saying it's a bad thing. I haven't decided what I think of it yet because it's still new to me. But in this context, the worst enemy is himself is based on an action he would one day try to murder a child. Which apparently is a Skywalker hallmark. It hits different. I don't know if I like it or not, because I do really like The Last Jedi, at least at this point in the watch throughs, but it adds a context I don't know how I feel about yet.
Yeah, I didn't really, because I kind of try to keep The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker out of my brain as much as possible, to be honest. But I'm gonna have to consider that. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, Josh.
I just had to say it. It's on my mind.
I don't want it to be on my mind. Fucking, this movie has one of the few, like, justifications for, the phrase I want to use is technological shenanigans. But, like, just, it gives the best excuse for just having shit in a spot where it's like, you'd be like, why? So, like, for the Battle of Hoth, like, the AT-ATs and the AT-STs, normally you'd just be like, why the fuck do they even bother with all of that if they could just do, like, an orbital bombardment? But the movie does a fairly decent job, I feel, of justifying, because they're like, oh, well, the ion cannons will just, like, shoot at them, and there's a shield generator, they gotta destroy that first, and then, like there's layers of reasonable justifications. It feels like these are legitimate strategies a rebel cell would make, instead of just like, we'll just put walkers on there, because toys, fuck it.
Well,
which is probably the actual reasoning, but...
This was another note I had, because apparently my role for this episode is just shitting on George Lucas. So, hilariously, after, I feel after you made that argument, now's the perfect time to bring this up.
Oh, no.
So, apparently, the idea behind Hoth, behind the scenes, was that George Lucas felt that space battles with the black backgrounds of, like, space made, like, the special effects team's job too easy, because you could, like, cheat and hide stuff in the black background. So he decided to have a snow planet battle where it's a white background, so the special effects had to be, like, extra good. So
I'm just picturing
George Lucas is a fucking madman. Him going, no, space,
Yeah.
you can cheat it in space. Put him on the
No,
snow.
yeah.
I'm just picturing the Eric Andre meme where he's like, fuck it, make it this color, and it's just George Lucas goes, fuck it, make it white, and then it's Hoth.
What if it was white?
Yeah, that one.
Fuck. No, that jives with George Lucas throughout all of his bullshit in the special features of the prequels. By the way, this is another random thing I was thinking about during this watch. I have a shit ton of special features for the prequel, so much so, in fact, that I don't know how I'm going to fit it into a week when I finally do that. The only special features I have for the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy are from Disney Plus, and it's not a lot. And I feel like part of the reason for that is because George Lucas is shown as such a luminous being of being a trollish asshole in all of the prequel behind-the-scenes shit. He is such an unrequited dick. He really is, and that's why that does not surprise me even in the slightest. I can't wait. I really can't wait until I watch
Josh
that.
is coming here with fighting words.
You like they're not fighting words.
Those are fight. You don't call someone a luminous dick without expecting a fight.
I mean, that can be used as a compliment.
I was about to say, luminous
That
dick
is
is
true.
either a terrible insult or a great compliment. I don't.
That is true. I feel like in certain contexts I would not be opposed.
He has a luminous dickage. It is very good crude matter.
We're getting farther and farther away from me being able to tell if you're complimenting or insulting him at this.
Further from God's grace.
I just wanted to point out just how toxic the masculinity of Han Solo is for a second, and just like a 10-second scene if I can.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I know exactly where you're talking, I think, and it's terrible.
There's a scene where C-3PO mentions that there's a problem. I don't remember specifically what with the ship, but there's something critical wrong with the ship, and he notices it, and he tells Han, and Han shouts him down as if he was supposed to as if he knew that already, and then he turns around, walks 5 feet, looks behind him so that 3PO isn't listening, and then says the same exact thing in a very hushed voice to Chewbacca, as if he knew all along. And I've never seen a scene that so encapsulates the need to be an expert on things than that. That is such a just fucking toxic attitude to take.
I'm gonna be real. This wasn't going the direction I thought, but I'm on board.
Please expand upon Han.
Oh, I thought you were gonna talk about on Hoth when Han and Leia are in the one corridor and they're arguing, and he's like,
Oh, yeah.
"Well, you're just mad at me because you want to fucking kiss me." And she's like, "Fucking excuse me."
No, I thought that was obvious, so I didn't even mention it. Although,
there's another great. Speaking of Hoth and Han and Chewie, there's another great like behind the scenes feature somewhere. Like there's footage of Peter Mayhew doing like dialogue essentially for the scene where Han's like, talking to him and Chewie's fixing the ship, and it's Peter Mayhew like, "Well, fucking hurry up and go." It's like those two going back and forth, and it's Peter Mayhew just like yelling and cursing. Because George Lucas's original explanation was like, no, Chewie has a terrible foul mouth and just is constantly cursing Han out. And so anytime they
that
had a
tracks.
fucking scene like that, apparently it was just Peter Mayhew hurling insults at Harrison.
I choose to believe that translates flawlessly into the Wookiee language.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So like, Chewie
tracks.
is actually in canon just cussing Han out at every moment.
Well, that's what apparently Lucas has said multiple times. Like, oh yeah, no, he's just constantly like cursing at Han. Constantly, he's just hurling insults at him.
If I was stuck with a life debt to Han, as much as I love Han, I'd probably be cussing him out all the time as well.
2 things. One, I think I'm looking at my notes now, and I think the reason why I didn't talk about how the toxic masculinity of that scene is because I made another really dumb note from that scene that just says by how so many insults in the original trilogy are in some way xenophobic towards a real living sentient species. Like, in the case of I'd rather kiss a Wookiee, for example.
Yeah.
Then in another moment of Han yelling at someone because they're trying to help him, where he says, "I'll see you in hell." My mind drifted back to The Phantom Menace, where I remembered that angels were a sentient race of aliens, and I began to wonder if hell was a planet,
Damn.
which disgusted me very deeply.
Yeah, it's Mustafar.
For Anakin, it is.
I mean, in George's mind, probably. The other thing, and this is a note that actually goes back to The Phantom Menace. I have to dig it. I have to dig it up. Because you just...
bring me back to that hellish place.
What do you mean? It's great. There's a pod race and everything.
Okay, never mind. Let's just keep going. I can't find it. Shit. Where is it? Whatever. Anyway, continuing.
So pod races.
Oh, Jesus, fuck. No. No, Ben, no. No more pod racing. God damn it. No more fucking pod racing.
I'm going to have a surprise for when we get back to Phantom Menace. That's all I'm going to say.
This is a special features thing, and it's probably like a very tiny note. Because they edited prequel palps into this movie, they created like an accidental, like, this is very, very, very CinemaSins, and I hate myself for bringing it up, but they created this accidental situation where Palpatine drops a giant plot hook that's just like, hey, this guy's your son.
Oh,
and Vader answers immediately without hesitation. And he didn't do that in the original version because it just was how the two scenes sunk up when they put the new version in. And it bothers me for a lot of reasons. My first thought process before I wrote it down was, oh, well, he probably already knew because he spent so much time close to Luke. And then my realization afterwards was that would have meant that he would have had to known that Leia was his daughter as he actually tortured her.
No, actually. I read the new Marvel run of the Darth Vader comic. And after A New Hope, Darth Vader hires Boba Fett, and I forget the name of the other bounty hunter. He's a Wookiee with a dark pelt, which is he's.
No, yeah, I remember this. Yeah.
And he hires them to track down the rebel that blew up the Death Star, and Boba Fett ends up tracking down Luke, and he gives him the name. He gives Vader the name Luke Skywalker. So Darth Vader, before this movie, actually finds out that Luke Skywalker is a person that exists.
Okay,
but I don't think he gives up Leia.
Yeah, that's a nice little way to tie that into a bow, and I appreciate it because the Darth Vader comic was actually very good. I actually read it as well, and I didn't remember that because I haven't read it in four or 5 years. But I will say, that's a very recent bandage on this scene.
It is. I won't disagree with that. That is a bandage that came, like, when did the special editions come out?
96. Well, no, that specific
96.
edit came out right after Revenge of the Sith. That was
okay,
one
yeah,
of the
so
later
like,
editions. Or like
too many
maybe
years too late.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now. But it was definitely after 96.
Also, I just pictured George walked into the shoot that day. He was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have some extra stuff for you to do." Who plays Palpatine? Why am I bad at actor names?
Ian McDermott.
Ian McDermott. Jesus Christ. I'm aware. Ian McDermott's like, "Okay, what are we shooting?" He's like, "We're shooting stuff for Empire Strikes Back," and Ian McDermott's like, "Wait, I thought we were done with that shit."
When? At what point did he get edited into the movie?
It was either the year before or after Revenge of the Sith. I'm pretty sure.
That's another weird thing. It's like, I get it, it makes sense, but also, like, I guess fuck that original actor.
Well, I mean, that's the same thing with Anakin's Force Ghost.
Oh, well, yeah, the original. Sure. Well, I'll say this is less insulting.
Agreed.
Because the original Palpatine was literally one of the family members or wives of one of the people on set dressed up in a robe. So it was like that wasn't a big deal. the replacing of an actual actor who went through all 3 movies for the end of Return of the Jedi is a whole situation entirely else.
Who shows up on set is told, yeah, we're not actually using your voice, we're gonna have you dubbed over, you just get to be the guy in the suit. We're gonna give you like 2 lines at the end when you're dying. Oh, I agree and disagree with George Lucas leaving surprises in these movies, because like some of them are great. Like I believe he didn't tell Mark Hamill about the plot twist of "No, I am your father." But then he'll also just pull some shit like, "Hey, by the way, you're literally just a suit, and we're gonna have a voice over you." Granted, a great voice, but still.
And that poor guy, this is a whole other rant, but the guy who was in the Vader costume has been ostracized from the Star Wars fandom by Lucas until recently. Like, I don't know why, but George specifically did not like him.
Well, it's because he got super pissed off at George and wanted out as soon as he realized his voice wasn't actually in the movies. Justifiably so, I would say.
The Emperor's hologram was edited in along with Boba Fett's voice in the 2004 DVD release.
Oh, jeez. That's a lot.
So those are the ones I own.
So there's another, the guy who played or did the voice of Boba Fett is another one that got fucked over.
Yeah.
Like he didn't get any residuals for any of like the action figures that had the lines.
No, it was
no. And that he's a great actor. Like there was no reason to change his voice. He was close enough to Boba Fett sounding anyway.
Yeah. Like he could have passed as a Jango clone even with the I will say though, this movie probably has the least issues in terms of special editions and revisions.
Oh, I'll give this movie credit too. The edits that they made to Bespin are actually improvements. Because the original version was just like white walls and that was it. It makes it feel more open in a way I appreciate.
I was thinking about this last night, like not even because again I watched the movie today. Thinking about this last night though before I even watched it, like other than Blade Runner, which is a totally different case, but like other than that, what fucking other movies go back years later and continue changing? Like why leave it alone? Like why are movies getting DLC? like fucking
I feel like
oh shit.
I feel like Apocalypse Now is really famous for that as well, but none on this scale. Absolutely nothing on this scale.
No, not to the level.
Yeah.
Well, it's in a weird way though too, where like like I said, Blade Runner has a few different versions, but you can.
Yeah, but Blade Runner has a few different versions because there were a few different versions of the movie made that the studio fucked up.
Well, yeah, but also they give you the option on all of the releases to watch each version. You can't find really the original version. I mean, you can. It's out there.
But George Lucas actively tried to,
Yeah, like you don't. No, fuck you, man. You made a movie. You don't get to keep fucking redoing it. What the hell? like, fucking.
I want vanilla Star Wars.
Yeah, like fuck you and your McClunky, bitch. No, give me back original Star Wars. I want you to know too. Literally like 2 days ago, I was talking to my dad about that, and he has not watched these movies since they hit Disney Plus. And I mentioned the moment in our recording last week where I, told the whole McClunky story and who is McClunky, and he was like, well, no, who is McClunky? I was like, you have no idea what I'm talking about, do you? He's like, no. I sat on the phone with my father while he turned on Disney Plus, fast forwarded to the scene, and watched it. So I got live reaction of my father.
Oh no!
watching and listening to that and going, what the fuck is this?
That's awful.
We are the franchise of much unneeded edits that just happen for no reason.
It's a thing that, and I know we've said a couple times now, we don't want to get too invested in bitching about the edits and stuff, because, I mean, fuck, that's all this goddamn podcast will become after a while.
Yeah, there's going to be a time where it's...
I do feel like we have to get it out of our system.
That's true. But no, I mean, like, it is so fucking weird because there's really not... I feel like nobody bitches about it enough. It's weird. It's weird because there's no other examples of it that are this prevalent. And
what? Like as the hunt shot first, or
for anyone interested in this stuff, this also comes down to the value of director's cuts and how questionable they are. H-Bomber Guy did a piece on this. I think it's really good, and it barely mentions Star Wars until the end. But Chris was right. In regards to Blade Runner, there should be at least the option to see what came before it, and you start to really get into some shady business when you edit on this massive a scale and then take away the original versions.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. At a certain point, it becomes strange, nonsensical censorship.
Yeah.
Where it's like, all right, well, that original version of the movie is gone. Like, there's people, like, I have never seen, because I'm 26. I have never seen the original full version of these movies.
I've only ever seen the online specialized version. That's still not the original version, technically.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, it's so fucking strange to me. Like,
I haven't watched them yet because I haven't set everything up, but I have old VHS tapes of the original trilogy.
Yeah, but even the VHS tapes are not...
No, not the special edition VHS tapes. Like, the VHS tapes...
Even those I don't think are, because I had copies that were my dad's at one point that were before the special edition VHS tapes. I still don't think that was the full original version.
Well, once quarantine's over, but once this whole fucking bullshit is over, Ben, you and I can sit in a room for a rotation and find out if that's the case or not.
If that's the case, that is incredibly impressive, and I feel like we have to do a full rotation where we all watch those.
I mean, I'm going to watch the specialized editions either way because they did a really impressive job.
Chris, you're gonna come hang out with us for like a month so we could get through three episodes, one rotation.
Yeah, I'll fly back. We can just, we fucking, by that point, who knows if we'll have even put out a fucking episode yet, because we're in and
stop.
We'll just
that.
film in advance. We're
not cutting that.
Oh,
we have already mentioned that in the last episode we have not put out a podcast yet. That will 100% be in. I do want to be authentic on that. We are on episode 5. We have not put out
how far behind we are.
Podcast.
I don't know if it's embarrassed. People film shit ahead all the time. Fuck it, whatever.
Yeah, but they aren't like, hey, by the way, I filmed this like a month and a half ago.
But no, it's fine. We'll just film ahead. We'll be like, look, we're doing this special run, so we're gonna film it ahead. Fucking deal with it. I'll fly out. We'll sit on a couch and we'll watch fucking VHS tapes like the old men that we're becoming. And
and like, in the interest of fairness, we 100% have watched one Star Wars movie every week so far. Like, we're still doing it that way. We're just recording one podcast a week and then not releasing it.
Yeah, so we'll be behind. So hello from the future or the past.
I can't wait for all of these episodes to get lost on Josh's hard drive and never see the light of day.
Dude,
we'll be sitting here 2 years from now, still every week talking about Star Wars, being like, yeah, when are we gonna upload those?
They're all edited.
Oh, this got meta.
Are they fully edited though? Because we didn't even officially have an intro theme until this morning.
Jeez. That one's on me.
Cokehead Uncle kind of fucks up the canon of this movie, doesn't it?
How so?
I realize that, like, in all versions of the movies, Yoda taught the younglings, like, taught all of the younglings. He has control over them from a certain point to a certain point in their life. But Qui-Gon's existence kind of has and will always kind of muddy the connection of Obi-Wan and Yoda in this movie in particular for me.
Yeah, I thought that too, because he does straight up tell Luke, you know, you're going to train with Yoda, the master who trained me. Like, no, he fucking didn't. Oh, that's fine. Fuck Qui-Gon, I guess.
Like, I realize that Yoda teaches the young children, which, by the way, that sounds like a big mistake based on what we know about Yoda now. But,
Although,
yeah, just...
I'm only now thinking about this. Would Qui-Gon be thought of favorably by future generations of Jedi?
That's a good question. As it stands right now, there are not future generations of Jedi.
What are you talking about? We have Rey Skywalker and Broom Boy.
I don't know, because, like, Qui-Gon wasn't much better.
Well, that's the thing, because, I mean, if you think about it, Qui-Gon is the one who fought so hard to get Anakin there, and, I mean, Qui-Gon, by extension, is the reason the Jedi got wiped out.
Yeah. I don't know if that would make him favorably popular in terms of...
I mean, to be fair, Luke also was blissfully ignorant of just how shitty the Jedi were pre-Empire.
Oh, okay, but how would he have known?
Time.
How would he have known?
But like, I'm saying, like, are we really gonna mourn the loss of the pre-Empire Jedi?
No, but I am saying that's what makes Luke in 8 interesting. Because he finally did figure it out, and he basically had a panic attack. He was like, oh no, that was a cult. Oh no, I'm leading a cult. Oh no, oh no.
Whoops, I guess I accidentally became a cult leader.
Look, it happens to the best of us.
I mean, also, like, if one day I woke up and I found out that, like, our ritual of watching every Star Wars every week turned into a cult thing, and we didn't realize it till at one point, like, I would have a panic attack. If I realized I was in charge of a cult that kidnapped children. I'm not saying our podcast is going to cause people to kidnap children.
Ben, what the fuck are you talking about right now?
I'm ranting. I don't know what I'm talking about. Someone
I'm
really
gonna be a little disappointed if at a certain point this doesn't become a cult.
You can make a religion out of this.
Chris is sitting here hoping that we all become figureheads for a cult, and I'm just like,
people. I'm just saying that people have made
I'm gonna
religion out of that.
They watched Star Wars every week forever, so that we never have to again.
I'm gonna start putting like cryptic codes in my dialogue in this show, like asking for help because I'm trapped in a cult.
Yeah, but if you do that, it's just gonna turn into the my brother and me bit from the TV show where they mention that they're gonna put cryptic codes in, and Griffin just stands up with a sign that just says 7, and that'll be all it is.
See here, Ben talked about pod racing every episode except for this one, and this episode was for the rise of Skywalker, so he needs to rise. What does he need to rise from? He needs to rise from the cult. Oh God, send help!
Oh no.
And yes, that was just a bit to get me to say pod racing again.
God damn it.
You fucking prick.
I'm gonna start real soon. But now, see, it can't be abused. I'm gonna start a bit where we do a drinking game where we have to take a shot every time Ben brings up pod racing.
I don't wanna, because then he won't be getting drunk because he's straight edge.
I'm for it.
Jesus Christ.
Every episode we get farther and farther the fuck off track, and I'm so here for it.
We're not even.
I mean, to be fair, this is the most on track we've been in 2 episodes.
That I refuse to accept that as fact.
No, I believe it. Have you heard us talk about episode 3?
No, I'm telling you, as the person who edits this podcast, episode 4 was so much fucking worse. So much fucking worse.
I refuse to believe that.
As the
I'll
person
believe
who
it when they're
does
actually
listen to
out
the
and like in post, like when I hear it in post. But right now, I refuse to believe that, and I'm fully prepared to eat those words.
I guess we'll end this on a rather popular subject on this podcast.
This podcast is basically Josh and Chris bringing up stuff and me answering with "Oh no."
I, for the first time in my life, got very fucking angry at Empire Yoda today. Or Tuesday when I watched this show. When Luke is leaving and they're trying to convince him not to leave, and when he finally leaves, Yoda goes, "No, there is another." And for the first time, maybe it's just because we've been talking so much about how much of a dick Yoda is, that seemed like a passive-aggressive fucking prick thing to do. And I'll tell you why. He's so convinced that there's another, and if this fails, he can fall back on it. Luke's literally going to save the other person. And because he left, he could have fucked the entire thing and gotten them both killed.
Well,
Wait
here's
a
the
minute.
problem with that. So the problem with this, and it can go right back to the actual cokehead uncle involved in this, and the fact that George Lucas is a fucking moron. And at the time of writing, Leia was not Luke's sister.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So
This is
I-
true.
That's the problem. You can't apply logic to fucking cokehead George Lucas. Being like, oh, fuck it, I don't know. At one point in the fucking script, the Force Ghost of Anakin was there instead of Yoda to train Luke. And Luke had another sister that was also trained to be a Jedi on the other end of the galaxy. And
That's
they
true.
were supposed to, like, join forces at the end and battle Vader.
I realized that. I was going to have that rant next episode because it's such a hyper-specific Return of the Jedi rant that I was avoiding mentioning it. But because I have already applied this same logic through the lens of the prequels, I had to apply it here as well. Because you have given me... George Lucas has presented this very terrible situation to me on a silver platter and said, this is canon, and therefore I have to be the figurative cat sitting in the chair while George Lucas yells at me for saying, you made Yoda look like a fucking prick here.
Also, I would like to point out real quick, within the context of the first 2 trilogies, Luke is literally already the plan B. Like, we fucked up with Anakin. Luke is the plan B. Yoda's running out of backup plans. So he's just pulling shit out of his ass at this point. He's just like, nah, there's another. There's always another. Don't worry about it.
All I'm going to say to that is I might do it next week. I cannot fucking wait to watch the documentary that they put into Revenge of the Sith where George talks about his master plan of how Anakin was still the chosen one throughout all of the quote-unquote Skywalker saga, because I could rip that fucking thing apart for years.
I mean, the biggest thing to me, and I was gonna save this for Return of the Jedi, but I feel like we've bitched enough about George tonight that I should bring it up now. I mean, it's been talked about before. There was a lot of mourning when the EU got thrown out, and
Yeah.
for good reason. But also, I mean, maybe it's not the worst thing that this franchise was taken out of George Lucas's hands.
No, I don't disagree with you in any way, shape, or form.
And I mean, you can make the argument that maybe it's not in necessarily better hands with Kathleen Kennedy and J.J. Abrams, but
No, I was 100% comfortable that it got taken out of his hands.
it's definitely for the best that it got taken out of his hands. Yeah. So I mean, because his original plan for 7 through 9 is fucking batshit as well. So
We're
Who,
gonna have to
Lucas is-
talk about that one day.
yeah.
I'm
We're
gonna be
gonna have to-
honest. I never saw those.
Oh my god.
Or
Okay,
the-
we'll talk.
He had scripts
talk.
made up, correct?
I don't
Or
know
no?
if he had
No,
full on
it was
scripts,
loose
but
ideas.
Yeah.
My coworker swears up and down he read the scripts, and I'm like, I
Well-
don't know about that one, Chief.
There were scripts that went around the internet for years and years that are absolutely not a real thing, but he did have a loose outline that those do exist, and it's batshit.
It's so fucking insane.
But that is for another podcast.
Also, I do need to point out, I have failed to listen to the radio show this week. That will have to be next rotation.
You disappoint me.
I disappoint me too.
Throughout the week, that's become my favorite thing. This podcast is Josh's editing notes throughout the week, and that was my favorite Discord message I got this week. Was Josh pointing out the fact that I threatened to murder Josh last week when the radio show was brought up.
I am the only one who edits this podcast, so I get the pleasure of sitting through not just re-listening to it, but re-listening to portions of it again and again and again. And there was some genuine hatred.
I
You know-
feel like that might be a natural
Yeah, you know,
conclusion.
this watch through, and I'm sure it's a fleeting moment, but this watch through reminded me that there are going to be moments where I still really enjoy doing this. Littered throughout this mistake of a thing we've done. Because I had a lot of fun watching Empire for some fucking reason. And maybe it's because I did more math this week and I realized that rounding up, I will watch these movies all together for 69 rotations. Good night, folks.
Nice.
Nice.